Good afternoon. I've learned to start 5 minutes late instead of 5 minutes early here, as is the norm. And I will time myself because I have a tendency to go over. But I think I should be done in under 35 minutes, and we'll have another 30 to 40 minutes to ask questions. So please don't be shy. Today, I don't have any surprises. I don't have any new gifts or accomplishments, but I thought it was very important to recap where we are, because as we've said, and we repeated on Monday, to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been in order to move forward. And for that, we want to hearken back to the words of Daniel Bliss, who was one of the founders of the university, who said, "We were not anxious to appear great, but we were anxious to lay foundations upon which greatness could be built." And going back to the first time that I formally spoke to the faculty, of course, those of you who are in the faculty senate then remember that we were negotiating things like the faculty contract and the restoration of tenure. But in my inauguration address, I made clear that we felt there was a moment to re-energize and transform the university. And institutions have their moments, okay, their opportunities, and you want to seize those opportunities. And the key parameters were education as the path to a more abundant life, not just for the individual, but for the communities. We know that since the early 1980s, wealth maldistribution has increased. So yes, universities have done a great job at making some individuals quite well off, but it's not necessarily true for the societies. Expansion and empowerment of the research mission, a better, fairer, healthier, more sustainable workplace, and an alma mater for the 21st century, not just offering the things that we had for decades. And we anchored that in that history of relevance, impact, and resilience the university had. We've launched a number of university-wide and faculty-level initiatives and a strategic plan that many of you participated in. Some agree with, some don't disagree with. But I think after 3 years and more than 500 people participating, including the board, we launched it formally in June of 2020 at one of the most difficult times. I'm not going to go through it again, but Vital is about valuing the community, improving the student experience, transforming our research and healthcare capabilities, and really holding ourselves accountable to the highest standards. Context is important. In the last 4 years, I thought it would be worth showing you a snapshot from the lens of AUB. Not from the media, but how do we see things, what's reported about us? So October 2019, the uprising, as pictured with students and faculty outside of the main gate. Shortly thereafter, we saw the economic collapse start to hit. We had COVID, we had the port explosion, which actually led to more faculty and staff departures than anything else. And here's an interview, for example, at AUB at work with Saeed Fakhani, one of our senior wise faculty members, who said, "We have no idea what the Lebanese pound is really valued at. It may be somewhere between 10,000 and 100,000, and that's proven to be correct." No sooner had we managed to vaccinate the majority of people and restore some semblance of, I would say, meta-normalcy rather than normalcy, than the earthquakes hit with many thousands, tens of thousands of lives lost in Syria and Turkey. And this fall, when we were hoping to take a breath, we started the term to attacks on our core values. What are we trying to teach? Are we trying to teach openness to different ways of life, which we are, or are we trying to indoctrinate into certain areas? And this was this particular orchestrated, shall we say, narrative about LGBTQ, which came with an accusatory lens. Of course, there is the war on Gaza, which continues to evolve in an increasingly more decimating and inhumane way day after day. And we had a manifestation of hate speech in two of our oldest upper campus buildings and Nicely and Fisk that took an investigation. So context matters. It matters not as an excuse, not as an enabler, but to help us understand where we are and what we're doing. Since October 19, 2023, the business and academic continuity planning yet again has been activated. This was activated, many of you may recall, in October of 2019. This is a layered structure where the leadership team looks at reviews, plans, technology, training, exercises, emergency resources, business continuities, the senior manager looking at frameworks, software training, testing, looks at the capability of the organization to continue delivery of our services, education and healthcare. And finally, the operational staff has to look to mobilize and respond to any incident to minimize the harmful impacts. So this is the academic continuity planning document. During this period, virtually every Occidental and Arab government raised a level 5 or red security alert, encouraging their citizens, including our faculty, to abandon the country. And several of them were more explicit, saying, if you don't take the opportunity to leave now, please have your own plans and show us that, understand that you're at your own responsibility. We're probably not going to have an evacuation plan. 420 students took advantage of the activation of the academic and continuity planning to request travel accommodations. Now close to, I think, 260 or 270 are back. The majority are back. Less than 10 faculty and staff requested travel accommodations. All are back on campus. And I want to pause for a minute about that. We have, as you're going to see, between the full-time faculty and the staff, we have over 4,300 employees, less than 10, and all are back. That's a singular level of dedication of the community to the mission of the university. Of course, the university lately about the Gaza crisis has communicated in many ways. After the bombing of the Baptist hospital, we had a moment of silence where we made clear where we stood, at least to our medical and nursing and healthcare staff. We've had meetings, faculty for student well-being, open discussion. Excellent work by the Beirut Urban Lab that shows that the war is actually in Lebanon. Lebanon is at war in so many ways. It's being hit. Journalists are being targeted. Despite the attempts to make the narrative otherwise, as someone who visited the first three journalists to arrive at AUBMC, there is no question this was deliberate targeting. Town halls and discussions from the front, and then the academic seminars that continue to have different perspectives. And for anyone who wishes to contribute to the efforts to relieve, as best we can, the suffering in Gaza, AUB very quickly launched a fundraising drive, and we've been upfront in asking the civil services, Red Cross and others, to bring the most severely wounded to AUB. And with Mr. Hatay and others, we've been setting up stations to transition people safely from the south who are wounded to AUBMC whenever possible. And this was the journalist of those wounded who I know best, Carmen Jukhadar, thanking AUBMC for treating her and easing her pain. As I've said before, there has to be a point where you decide not to only do the safe things. And Nelson Mandela perhaps said it best when he said, there's no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that is less than the one you're capable of living. And for the 8.5 years I've been here, I've been confident that the significant majority of the AUB community feels the same way. This is not a moment for us to pull back and teach and then go home or take care of patients at the bare minimum level and then make excuses. This is a moment, I think, for the university to be more than a university. The Barcelona Football Club call themselves més que un club, more than a club. And we like to think we are more than just a university. But we also have to realize we are predominantly a university and keep the faith there. So how have we navigated the context to transform the university? And I'm just talking about the last 4.5 years. We launched the Talal and Madiha Zain AUB Innovation Park. That now, as its director, our CITO, Yusuf Asfour, has shown, has led to the launch of a number of startups and has created a brand. Of course, where is this located? In the Beirut Digital District, in full partnership with the Talal and Madiha Zain family and with Muhammad Rabbah. Of course, because of its location, it's been destroyed twice, once during the uprising and once after the port explosion. Has been fully rebuilt. As the financial crisis grew, we were able to take funds, about $220 million out of the endowment, but on top of that, we raised money for things through the Heroes Fund that were urgent and difficult for us to pay for otherwise. Certain gaps in the funds of individuals' children who are studying abroad, people who lost their car, who lost their, sorry to say it, washing machine, people who needed an emergency procedure in their family. And this gave us some dexterity or leverage we didn't used to have. The vaccination campaign we led with the ministry. We've renovated 2 hospitals on schedule and, buildings on schedule and at cost. The new Dar al-Handasa Sha'ar and Partners Architectural Building, magnificent building, inaugurated last spring with the Dean and with the Dar Group, and the Ayman and Sausan Asfari building, which really has tremendously accelerated the impact of that institute. We've also reached the largest agreement in our history, largest grant in our history, led by the Provost and Deputy Provost, for the MasterCard Foundation, which is about $51 million over 8 years to bring now mostly graduate students from Africa. Launched the Mahmoud Kahil Awards, and just this September obtained our first hospital system outside of Beirut in the Kisrwan Medical Center, and launched under the leadership of Rector Wasim Al-Hajj, our first permanent university branch abroad in AUB Mediterraneo. And finally, I don't want to minimize this, we have plans to substantially expand our research efforts. The provost is overseeing a vigorous search for vice provost for research, which has identified a number of outstanding candidates. So how are things going over the last 4 years? Of course, students, if you see the curve, which is quite daunting, you will see that, and I'm going to step away from the podium for this. We had our biggest drop in undergraduates and new undergraduates shortly after the port explosion. That has picked up, but what's even more heartening is the number of undergraduate applications for early admissions. These tend to be the strongest students. That's gone from 475 to 1780. It's not just by coincidence, it's the introduction of more merit-based scholarships and the marketing of what the university can do to transform people's futures. The faculty has been where we've taken quite a severe hit. We went from 950, and the most dramatic decline was down to 640 as the consequences of the loss of earnings and particularly the port explosion hit us. But we've recruited 130 new faculty members since fall of 2021. And the number of full-time faculty members is at 710. The other demographic of the faculty is they tend to be not just younger, but we've been able to recruit some stellar faculty from within and without this country, and Mira Dumit is a star example of that. We are able to bring outstanding young and outstanding senior people. So as some of our senior faculty retire and others leave, we do have a good bimodal distribution. Number of staff members on campus. Of course, this was started with the layoffs that were largely structured around the new hospital whose building we've had to delay, and some programs like REP which were not hitting target. We nadered at 3,441, but we're back up to 3,656, and we're actively hiring. And finally, income. So this is perhaps one of the most striking things. We used to collect at peak 67 million per semester from parents and guardians paying tuition, and $250 million a year just to AUBMC. This is not the physicians' fees, this is not the grants. These two hit naders that were at different times. So for AUBMC, we fell to 85 million effectively and stayed there. And in our worst semester, we hit $6 million of revenues collected. 6 versus 67 is 8.89%. Usually, when you get to that amount of your revenue, you close shop, declare victory, and get someone to publish your history. But those who've recovered, not to the degree they were. The medical center conservatively is set to make 160. If we hit some targets, it could get closer to 170 million. And the revenue from parents is at 45 million per semester. So both of these are at 65%. We're still pushing to transform the salaries of the faculty and staff to AUB, in AUB to full dollar by 2024, 2025. More on that in the spring when we come back from the budget meeting. But we need to see some continued improvement in these if we're to accelerate those plans. And just a snapshot of what opening the campus at Paphos has meant. So in addition to the groundbreaking, we have a magnificent new small campus initially that's designed by the Dar Group and their partners to not mirror, but to be very syntonic with our campus here. And it's welcomed 53 students who are AUB students in every perspective. They're activists, so they go out. They're involved in community service, cleaning up the beach. I would love to see our students here cleaning up the Corniche and the beach as well, and I suspect they will. But they're also building community efforts. So these 53 young folks come from 12 different countries. And we're now starting with the rector's leadership and with support from Drs. Balbaki and Provost Nawi to recruit not just deans, but faculty, as we hope to have a vigorous incoming class. We had 262 early applicants, correct? A bit more, good. More is always better, except more problems. And I want to remind you that you are at the most accredited, most famous, most impactful, most resilient institution, and not just the oldest. All of our accreditations during the pandemic went through with flying colors, and in fact, we added a few more new ones, such as the LDEM accreditation. We're the first outside North America to have accreditation in landscape design. And these were a great deal of work because, for example, JCI visited at the height of the pandemic. They visited in January of 2021, before we got the vaccine, when many of our leadership were, during the course of that visit, coming down with COVID, but with some wonderful leadership. And I particularly want to cite the AUBMC director, Joatay, and the head of quality and accreditation, Rawad Jamal al-Din, head of nursing, Hisham Bawadi, for extraordinary reviews at that time, as well as interim dean Ghazi Zatari. Context matters, and it's worth thinking about AUB in the larger context. So this is some very thoughtful work done by the provost, the registrar and vice provost, Brad Tucker, and the director of university libraries, Luqman Maho. And what they did in this study is to look at universities that ranked in the top 50 in QS ranking in the world, but they looked at them by per capita income. And so, not surprisingly, the United States has 56, more than 20% of those, almost 25%. Great Britain has 36, Germany 17, Australia 19, China 15. But there are only two countries in the world, for the economists and others who are interested in this, that have a single university in the top 250, but a median GDP of below 10,000. And this speaks to Lebanon's decelerated economic situation. Lebanon is not an upper middle income country. Lebanon now is a lower middle income country, and by all criteria that we see, either metastable or heading slightly downwards. So the only two countries with that distinction are India, which is a population of $1.3 billion in extraordinary resources and economic, I would say, muscle, and Lebanon with AUB. I'm saying that not just as a point of pride, but to remind you all of the great responsibility we have to the citizens of Lebanon. We can't just be good for ourselves, but we have to provide more for our community in Lebanon, Palestine, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, and other countries. And towards that end, because I've decided from day -1 that I'm not going to let any of you rest, I don't think that's good enough to where we want to be. I think we should aspire to be a top 100 university in the world. And this September, we gathered the trustees and senior leadership, and we were missing 3 of the women senior leaders who didn't make this. But I'm happy to say that had we had this gathering in 2015 when I started, there would have been a grand total of 9 women, and most of them trustees and senior leadership engaged. Now we had 20 of the 23 women in senior leadership show up. Is that good enough? No, but it's over a third, and I'm hopeful that we will get closer to 50% in the next few years. And this is to let Huwaida al-Harithi and the great Dr. Zreit know that we took that initial task force seriously, and we're trying to implement it across the university. So what does it mean to be a top 100 university? What we want to do is to define that. How do we get from 2023, when we're top 250, 226, I believe, in QS rankings, less than that in other rankings, to top 100? Are we tied to the ranking criterias? No, we want to use them as one should use rankings to inform ourselves about how we can do better and where to invest in. And I'm being very candid today in saying that given our size and scale, we cannot be all things to all people. Departments and schools that are not making a major impact and playing at the highest level will not be invested in the next few years unless there is a clear expectation and belief that they can be built to serve the greater good of the region. So our goal is to become one of the 100 most vital, most impactful universities in the world through the following pathway: enhancing education and healthcare excellence, focusing in areas where we can be exceptional, but never dropping in education or healthcare before very good. And not just first in Lebanon, but we need to consistently offer the best university journey and some of the finest healthcare delivery in the country and the region. Faculty and staff advancement. This is about resources, not just fiscal resources, but resources in developing people with leadership skills, with research skills, with educational skills. Again, focusing on your strengths as you bring them to us and as we ultimately perceive them. Research and innovation excellence. Clearly here we have areas where we're world-class, and the majority of those areas where we're world-class are areas where we focus on being the best in the world in studying key things in the region and in basic fundamental science areas where we have exceptional strengths. So we shouldn't try to be all things to all people, but we need to double down on our resources there. Student success. Students excel at AUB not just because of the time they spend in classes or taking exams. They excel because the AUB experience is an exceptional one. Candidly speaking, it needs to be a better one. Our geographical reach has extended to Paphos, but it has to extend globally. In March, we'll launch AUB Online. This will allow us to bring people age 10 or 12 or above if they're precocious to ABLA's senior population, but we want to engage a much larger community and offer them value, not just our alumni, but all the people we serve. And fundraising facilities and resources. Dean Sawaya, who saw this presentation on Monday, is currently traveling, told me this needs to be here and there, and I agree. We need to continue to invest in our people, in our facilities, and in our programs. Only then, and guided by our mission, values, data-driven decision-making, and this is not going to be me deciding for those of you who've gotten familiar with the style. We will look at the data, but at the end of the day, we will make decisions. Local context and global trends are critical, and I would say the opportunities are. We need to lead for greater impact and move towards effectiveness and sustainability. This crisis taught us a lot about our vulnerability, or these series of crises. One of them was our over-reliance on tuition in Lebanese pounds, on direct patient care revenue. We need to diversify those revenues and make the university more sustainable. And that's already happening in our view. And we need to relook at the campus master plan. Again, with input from the end users, from the faculty, the staff, the students and administration, but look at the science complex, particularly big data potential, but also invest in things that are not big data and mobilize the student experience and have more of a public edge. We need to continue to be more permeable and less castle-like, less fortified, so that the world can benefit from AUB. And when we have achieved those, and we agree on the criteria, I do think we will be a far more relevant, far more impactful university. Part of that is taking a breath. We've had an extraordinarily successful capital campaign led by Senior Vice President Balbaki. The original target when I came on board was $500 million, and the trustees were still debating whether that was achievable. This target of $757 million was before a highly successful fundraiser in New York that I'm about to show you, and a successful giving day. But one of the great successes has been participation, strategic alignment of the goals, and also the fact that we did well enough from the time of our inauguration to peak that we were able to take that $220 million and spend it on people and facilities, mostly people. So we're back down around $840 million, and we have to talk about the next campaign, the next target. When's that going to be led? What's it going to be focused on? But I put a challenge out there in front of the deans and the trustees and senior leaders, and now I'm putting the campaign out challenge in front of the faculty who have influence and the staff. Why not aim for $2 billion as an endowment? I think it's doable by 2030. It would be extraordinary. We'd have to raise $75 million a year for endowment alone in addition to everything else. But I believe that as we get the message out, as we're more effective, we can push towards that. So why do we do it? Why do we have fundraisers in the most difficult of times? And I have to say the fundraiser in New York was extraordinary. It was restrained. There was no celebration, but we still managed to raise $6 million. Very hard work from the advancement team and the New York office in Cipriani's. In fact, we have a fantastic graduate who's a comedian, and she had to be constrained about the jokes she's telling with people dying in Gaza. She could only joke about herself. Well, we do it for a number of reasons, but one of them is to invest in innovation. And in the wonderful President's Challenge event, which is frankly one of the things I most look forward to each December, this is from scratch, and here you see Hamad Rabah, a number of the winners, Mahaz Zwahid, without whom all of this is impossible, and of course, Yusuf Asfour, who quietly gets all of this done. So Yusuf and Imad actually managed to secure an additional prize, $10,000 a year for the most socially impactful innovation. And this year, the winner is this young woman, Lana Hnaini. And I'm going to show you a little bit about her AUB journey. This is Ghina winning the Top Athletes Award as captain of the futsal team in 2016, graduating in 2017, and then winning the prize this year. What is her innovation? She set up a company called Parency, which provides support, assistance, expertise to brand new mothers in France, and her goal is to spread that throughout the world. So this provides tremendous social value given the amount of postpartum depression and challenges this leads. And speaking of journeys, I want to end with journeys new and well set. On Founders Day, we had 3 magnificent essays. I'm sorry we only have one read by Muhammad Abu Bakr, who came from Yemen and described coming here in a boat, what that meant to him, what the AUB journey meant to him, but also how the university can play a role in citizenship. And this is a major focus of ours. Frankly speaking, we get students for 3, 4, 7 years, but when the basic curriculum of citizenship and civics has been hollowed out in the schools, be they in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, or elsewhere, it's hard to teach students who gain that sense of citizenship in Lebanon what it's like to have a composite identity that still has some commonality in serving Lebanon. And on that day, an AUB veteran, Nasif Hitti, who served as ambassador to the Arab League and as foreign minister in one of the most challenging of times, spoke about how his personal AUB and life journey had inspired him to come up with a new model for citizenship for Lebanon. And this is what we need. We need a more engaged faculty and staff, a faculty and staff that increasingly feels more secure. Restoring tenure was the first step a few years ago. Restoring some financial equity will continue for the next several years, and frankly will continue ad infinitum. But we need to resource all of your AUB journeys and listen to you and make sure that like Ghana Hnaini, like Nasif Hitti, like Muhammad Abu Bakr and Joy and Ahmad, your AUB journey is meaningful and reflects to the AUB journeys of our students, faculty, and staff. And with that, I'll say thank you and take questions. Same as last time, 32 minutes, so sorry about that. Questions? I know you well and I cheated, بس عارفة على حالك. مع الميكروفون.
Muna Dumet, School of Nursing. First, I would like to start by thanking you and the team who worked on all these achievements. Thank you for making us so proud to belong to this big family that we call AUB. Really, I felt so proud. My question is related to KMC. Recently, we read the appointment of Dr. Saghiye and we're very happy as CMO. But I was waiting for the CNO because we know that a bird cannot fly with one wing. And if we want to transform that KMC into the American model, we need to have nursing from day 0. And we know that the catchment area of KMC might be much bigger than AUBMC. It will extend from Syria until Daura. And this whole area does not have an American model hospital. And I think our role as nursing body is very big. Thank you.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. By the way, given as head of as president of the Order of Nurses, also in the very challenging time when Nasif served as foreign minister. So I couldn't agree with you more, but let me explain the structuring of KMC because that's perhaps something that we have not made clear. So KMC was purchased outright by the board as an investment for the university. It's not yet part of the not-for-profit that is AUBMC. And I'll get to the chief nursing officer where we're actively searching. And please, let Saeed know and let the general director, most importantly, جعتي know of any candidates, because we agree KMC can become a tremendous asset. Just yesterday, we had some important assurances given to us about fuel and other things for AUBMC in a crisis that were accelerated by the fact that people in Lebanon now see us as wanting to serve the whole country. I think this started in 2020 when the rumors of our leaving for Dubai took off. But there is a stronger sense, I think, among the Lebanese that we want to serve all the people in this country and beyond. So as a separate investment, AUBMC has a very small board. KMC, sorry. KMC's board is chaired by me, has Mary Jaber, Kamal Badr, Imad Baalbaki, Samar Nuruddin. So one physician, one nurse, okay? I don't count. So I'm the chair, and then AUB has a vote, believe it or not. So I vote for myself and AUB. So all I need to do is convince 2 of the other 4, and I have a majority. The structure has to stay outside of AUB as long as it's a pure investment. Once we have paid off the debts, and there are many reasons for this limited liability, once we are able to, if we are able to fold it into the larger AUBMC and AUB, we will be at an advantage, but that will be in a few years. Why is it critical to have a chief nursing officer and other things? So we're recruiting carefully. We have you're the general manager, right? And under Joe, there is a hospital director. What's his title? Jean? Deputy general manager. And we just appointed retroactively, because Saeed has been doing the job since October, as CMO. Once we get together, I expect the person who takes the lead on the CNO will be the expert on nursing on the board, working with the general manager. So this is the way it's working, but it has a unique structure. And I agree, I think it has a capacity, because people are so hung up with this traffic jam that starts from the Casino to Jounieh. We will be able to serve a population to the east, to the north, extending all the way into Syria there, as we integrate it more. Nadine, it also introduces, I know everyone.
Okay. Nadine Darwish, professor in the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Genetics. Thank you, President Khouri. Okay. I would like to, and I hope that AUB will be in the top 100 by 2030. Inshallah. My concern is, let's go to the faculty members, okay? Those that are here or those that we want to recruit. From my personal experience, in our department, we used to be 9 members, we are 3. This is including the new recruit that we had, and we are actively recruiting. However, the quality of the applicants is not what we used to have, okay? So my question is, what are the plans in the next 2 or 3 years in attracting top-notch faculty members, 1, and in keeping those that are still at AUB, considering what's going on in the region, and with the economy and the instability in Lebanon? I know it's not an easy task, but AUB is used to that and used to not easy tasks. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Nadine, let me break it down to what AUB is doing, what it's done, and what it can do. So as you saw, we're at 65% of revenues of 2019-2020. But faculty and staff compensation, salaries and benefits, is between 76 and 81%. And physician take-home pay median is the same as it was in 2019-2020. So there's something wrong with this equation. And I'll tell you what's wrong. That gap is being filled by the last of the trustee money. You're right in that in some areas we're not able to recruit as competitively as we'd like, but in other areas we're recruiting very well. We had a search in philosophy that for 2 positions that yielded, I think, 80-something candidates, of whom more than 20 were strong and 8 were felt to be exceptionally strong. We're also seeing that in some staff areas. Where are we really struggling? We're struggling in the surgical specialties. We're struggling in engineering, technology-based specialties, AI, and other areas. We're struggling in IT and some of the very well remunerated areas on staff, and some of the medical specialists work in the hospital, as well as experienced nurses. Let's be candid. We're getting very, very good at recruiting outstanding young nurses by paying for their nursing school, which is something I've wanted to do for a while, and it speaks to my lack of pace that's finally getting done. But we have to be realistic and not do this at the expense of anyone. So when we instituted this plan to, by 2025, return to normal, we recognized that we needed to take care of the community we had, staff and faculty, but not at the expense of the students. As a result, we're giving much more financial aid than ever before, much more. I mean, last year we topped $110 million. When I came, it was $44.5 million. At some point, it has to calibrate, so 25% of the students are free tuition free, and 25% are full pay, with the rest at 55 to 60%. We're making good progress on getting to 25% free pay, but we're still not much above 11 to 12% in those who are full pay. That's one. 2, there is a responsibility that faculty have at an American university, which is to get a significant share of their salary, if they're research scholars, through research grants. That we've made some progress, but we're not yet at the point we'd like to be, nor are we as an administration at the point where we service your grants effectively. So Muna Fawaz lands a grant, she can't get the money to her RAs and lab colleagues in time. So we need to all get better. How do we attract people? I'm happy to say we're having this discussion because for the years up to 2022, our big concern was how do we retain? In fact, we've shown we are attracting 130 new faculty members, including some of the folks sitting here. And not all of them are junior. We have some stellar senior recruits. I suspect you will have much more success in recruiting in biochemistry in particular once you have a permanent chair and a significant portfolio of resources. And resources are not just salary, but resources for labs. The university has for years given startups of 5,000 to 10,000 for a new researcher. That's not feasible for someone whose work is hands-on in a wet lab. It's not even feasible for people who work in a dry lab. But this is the kind of research strategy that we hope the vice provost for research will pull together once she or he are selected and appointed. Again, I want to step back for a minute and say, in my view, the team led by the provost and deans and VP administration, hospital director, CITO, senior vice president, rector, is the strongest and most nimble administrative team the university has had in a long time. You could argue that I've done the right thing for the university and the wrong thing for my own indispensability, and that this team could continue very well without me. Not that they'll have the chance for those of you hoping for an early retirement, but that's the comment of the board. The board feels that this is the strongest overall administrative team they've seen in 20 to 25 years. Given that the board sees what I see, I think it's important to empower that team to take the steps necessary. Khalil, or no, who else? I see Khalil Kredi back there. Tfaddal.
Hello, Mr. President. My name is Ziyad Yamoud. I'm an engineering architecture library assistant. Thank you for your fruitful elaboration. I have two questions regarding maybe most of the staff at AUB. You were saying that tenure was retrieved mainly for faculty members. Is there an idea or a possibility that the staff will get tenure also future-wise? The second question is, there was a title for the ombuds at the AUB. It was frozen, or maybe, I don't know, it was canceled. Will it be retrieved? Thank you.
So, thank you. First of all, we're from the Mahmoud family that has several generations of service, scholarship and service at AUB, particularly around AUB's physical infrastructure needs. And this is about infrastructure needs of people. Tenure doesn't exist for staff. Tenure is the concept of faculty, because faculty are, in other words, on short-term contracts where staff serve until retirement as long as they're performing at an adequate level. Faculty are asked to do completely different jobs, and for staff, we have far less wiggle room based on the government of Lebanon's mandate that people retire at 64 and a half or 65. There are many people who, in our view, are becoming exceptional in their work and peaking a little later that we don't have the luxury of retaining without violating Lebanese law. Now, when I think of infrastructure and maintenance of the human capital of the university and the staff, I think of it a little bit differently. What worries me about the staff was the likelihood, which I saw, that Lebanon's already unbalanced and fragile economy would collapse, and they would retire to a social security. And I, as a dual citizen, I don't believe that I'll get my social security from the US, or at least I don't build my plans on that. If I get it, great. If not, I have to have a plan B and plan C. From that perspective, we've been able to be much more robust in giving people their retirement funds, the supplements, in dollars or in larger percentages over the last few years. But that's not enough. We want to move towards creating some kind of a retirement plan that's not illegal, that you're not taxed on. And I'm not talking just about this government. Every government in the world is looking to tax you. I'm saying this as a social democrat in the German. They're looking to tax you. As when we cover your health and educational benefits, you're taxed on that, the university pays. So we're trying to see what can we do for the staff that protects them. And if I knew all the answers, I would tell you, because tenure is not a medal. Tenure is about telling the faculty, stop counting your publications, make your publications count. Stop counting your publications, make your publications count. I'm sick of people saying I have 50 articles in 1 year. Well, you know what? Then you didn't even read those 50, much less write them. ChatGPT did. There are other universities that are hiring people who write their papers on ChatGPT. So, from the larger perspective, we're trying to work on things that sustain our staff's benefits and their quality of life so they retire and don't say, you know, I sacrificed 40 years at AUB, but thank God I educated my children. I didn't buy a house or an apartment. I lived paycheck to paycheck, and the government stopped providing services. We're seeking to transform that. It's difficult, it's going to take time, but I'm confident with that. That's your equivalent. Do you see what I'm saying? The ombudsman. So there was, in 2020 or 2021, a search for an ombudsperson. They identified a fantastic candidate who was from Canada, which is in Canada. Seemed ready to come, and she turned us. I'm all for reinvigorating that search, but I believe in having only so many searches at a time. Now we have 2 senior searches at the last time, but I do think we should have another search to try to next ombudsperson.
Thank you. This is Khalil Kradir from the Faculty of Medicine. I would like to thank you, Mr. President, for your commitment to AUB and for steering the ship during the most challenging times. My question is very simple. We are all for making AUB the top 100 university in the world, and we're happy to help in increasing the endowments. The question is how we can help you in reaching and achieving these milestones.
Thank you. So Khalil is a senior leader in the Dean's office, the Dean of Medicine's office. There are many ways you can help us. We failed to take advantage of one of the easiest models of philanthropy. بطريقتك حتخلص. Dr. Yunus, your phone looks like the light's on. Bottom line, no, أنا in real life بطريقتي حتخلص. أنت بس السيل فون, so ما تزعل. The grateful patient model is badly underutilized by AUB. Every physician undoubtedly has a number of grateful patients who can endow a building, a thumbtack, a room, a center. That's one. That's one very simple one. Another is to, long-term, but I think far more impactful, is to look after our students. You would be surprised at the number of students, pleasantly so, who are giving more and more through this Fingerprints program. We have a larger and larger, correct me if I'm wrong, Naila and Imad, a larger and larger component of the class giving, starting small and giving more. And this is another key area. The third is please work with our advancement folks to come up with strategic plans and strategic priorities. Where does it go wrong? It's been a long time since I spoke about my Emory experience, but when I was there, I had areas that were priorities for me to endow, and they largely resided in endowed chairs in research-intensive, revenue, non-remunerative areas like hemophilia. So I kept working with that society until we had a $2.5 million chair and a $10 million center. Those happened after I left. I'm fine with that. But the trick with philanthropy, Khalil, is to persist at it. My father used to say, the people that you're good to wind up giving huge gifts. There's a naming of the Boston University Medical School after the late dean by a friend of his who was well treated at that medical school, but who simply happened to believe in that dean. And after the dean was long gone, they named the medical school the $100 million gift. So in my opinion, it's about being good to people, about being persistent, about working with advancement, and also about having targets. You can, if every physician goes to their favorite patient and has a coffee machine named after them, we'll never get there. But if they name conference rooms and centers, and if the nurses who come in for the most praise from our patients, if they are more visible, and that's our mistake, if we show them to the patients, then we'll do much better. Yesterday, I visited 2 people with 2 different diseases in the hospital. Well, one is a disease, the other disease you could say is parenthood. It's not a disease. And the first people they praised are the nurses, the administration, the experience. So we have to improve our experience. We have to improve how we present people. We have to be more gracious. Even I, with age, have learned to take criticism better. 90% of criticism in this country can lead to deriving at least one useful thing, even if it's put forward in a really ugly way. And believe me, I've seen ugly, okay? I used to get on the plane and have the person sitting next to me and 5 people coming forward to tell me, well, I'm sorry, can I ask you, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? And it would irritate me initially. Now I listen to them, and more often than not, there's at least one kernel, one very helpful thing in there. And please don't be shy about talking to me. I had one of my most admirable faculty reach out to me this morning and say, sorry to start your day this way. No, Thank you for starting my day this way. Thank you for pointing out how we can do better. We can all do better. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. I know this.
Not like in the US, like you donate 100 million and then it's tax deductible.
Of course they're not tax deductible in Lebanon, but many people who are US or Canadian citizens do tax deduct. And a lot of the people who are giving us in Lebanon, our largest giver, the Samara, he's not a US citizen. It was not tax deductible. Our second largest gift, which we hope to include freeze, also not a US citizen, not tax deductible. So of course we offer the tax deduction where we can, but our history has been that we get large gifts from people, not for the purpose of tax deduction, including I think in last year's given and not this year. A gift that would be 11 million that's a bequest, that means when the person dies, from a non-AUB graduate.
Yeah, I thought perhaps if it was tax deductible, then we would attract more. This is what I'm saying.
This is different. I've often said AUB has not lived up to its responsibility with pushing the educational curriculum of Lebanon, okay? The educational curriculum of Lebanon has been hollowed out over the last 50 years. And I'm not just talking about civic engagement or citizenship. It's been hollowed out. You know, I remember having a discussion with a very educated minister of education, it's not the one you're all guessing, saying that he was going to cut the number of school days to 135 because the teachers went on strike and this way they could have their 45 days. And I said, well, you know, the Lebanese are not superhuman, my friend. You know, next thing they'll be on strike for 45 days and you'll be down to 90, which is half the number of school days. But we do have by far the best Department of Education, and it is our duty to help rebuild and strengthen those institutions of the government where we have a role. Now, whether we want to get into what's tax deductible or not, I would say, let's wait for a new government to come. We make ourselves available to this and every other government before. And let's come forward with some proposals which we believe will be of benefit to the people, starting with the educational curriculum.
Thank you. Good morning, President. George Philippe Al-Ashar, graduate student representative in FAS. A short question would be, how can we as students within the 2-3 years that we spend at AUB be more engaged in the strategic planning and contribute more to the goals that you previously mentioned? Thank you.
So, frankly, in both the campus master plan, the strategic plan, and all of the searches, including the searches for the provost, we've had student representation. We believe you have a valuable voice. But other than representation, my wish for you during our time at AUB is to drink deep in the university journey, participate in the clubs and the elections, engage more fully, and do all you can to be at the table. There's an awful American expression, if you're not at the table, you're usually what's being served for dinner. And I've said that now for more than 23 years I've been in senior leadership roles, because my first leadership role was to run a clinical trials matrix, and I had nurses and research coordinators and others. And they said, well, you guys decide. I said, if you don't want to be at the table, then the things will be decided for you. We have a very vigorous USFC, and they, I believe, have felt consistently for, this is my 9th year with USFCs, that they're at the table. They've been on the budgeting committee, 2 of them. They meet with the board. But the best thing you can do is get to know and experience AUB so you can give the most informed opinions on where we can be better. And certainly in strategic planning, part of strategy is knowing what you're good at and what you aspire to be better at and what you're going to be okay at. It's about making choices. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good end of the year.